For many years, the ocean has kept its biggest secrets hidden deep below the sunlight, where humans rarely go. Every now and then, though, it lets one secret come into view. This year, a team of marine biologists working on a deep-sea study announced something big. They had confirmed a brand new apex predator. This is a creature that sits at the very top of its food chain with no natural enemies of its own. The news has made waves across the science world and brought back public excitement about what might still be hiding in the unknown parts of the sea. This discovery did not happen in one day. It took years of careful watching, hundreds of hours of underwater video, DNA testing from the water itself, and a slow process of ruling out every other possible explanation until only one answer was left. This really was something new, and it was the top hunter in its area. The story started, like many ocean discoveries do, with something strange in the data. Scientists were tracking changes in the numbers of mid-sized fish and squid in a remote underwater trench as part of a different study. Over several seasons, they noticed odd gaps, animals they were. Tracking kept disappearing without explanation. The ones that survived had strange bite and scar marks that did not match any known predator in that area. At first, they thought that already known big predators in the region were simply hunting in new places. But as more data came in, the scars looked too different, the hunting area was too wide, and the pattern of behavior was too unusual to be explained by any known animal. This ongoing mystery, more than any single dramatic moment, pushed the team to send a full expedition to find out what was really happening under the water. Deep-sea expeditions like this are extremely hard to plan and even harder to carry out. The environment down there is harsh for almost everything humans use to explore. At extreme depths, water pressure can be 1,000 times stronger than at the surface, crushing anything not built specifically to survive it. Sunlight disappears within the first few hundred meters, leaving total darkness except for the occasional glowing light from a sea creature. The temperature stays just above freezing, and the ground below is often unmapped, with sudden cliffs, hot vents, and loose, shifting mud. Any equipment sent down must be armored, able to work on its own, and able to send data back through miles of water without losing signal. The research ship on this expedition carried special underwater robots with high-quality cameras, sonar systems, and sampling. Tools designed to collect tissue and DNA samples without ever having to physically catch the animal. The first confirmed sighting happened almost by accident. An underwater robot, sent to check out a hot water vent area, was following its normal search path when its sonar picked up a large moving shape at the edge of its range. The pilot, sitting in the control room on the ship above, moved the robot closer to get a better look, expecting maybe a known type of shark or a large squid drifting by. What showed up on the screen instead was something the whole team had trouble identifying right away. The creature moved with smooth, purposeful movements that looked like a top hunter rather than a scavenger. It used strong side-to-side body movements to close in fast, then flattened its body to glide silently through the water. Its color was almost the same shade as the darkness around it, broken only by faint glowing patterns along its sides that seemed to work as both camouflage and possibly a way to attract prey. Over the following weeks, the team recorded several more sightings, each one adding a new piece to the puzzle. They watched the animal hunt more than once, using a mix of speed, surprise attacks, and what looked like a special sense for detecting electrical signals to find prey hiding in the mud. It struck with huge force, killing prey almost instantly, and then quickly moved away from the kill site, instead of staying nearby, a behavior that likely protects it from other hungry predators drawn in by the disturbance. Researchers also noticed that the animal covered a surprisingly large area, patrolling a stretch of the trench wall spanning several kilometers, a much bigger range than the smaller mid-level predators in the same area normally use. This large range was one of the clearest early signs that the team was looking at something at the very top of the local food chain, not just another mid-level competitor. Confirming that something is truly an apex predator is not simple. It's not just about finding a big or scary-looking animal. Scientists follow a strict set of rules before using that label, and the process is deliberately careful and slow. An apex predator is defined mainly by its place in the food web. It must have no serious natural enemies in its environment, and it must clearly affect the population numbers of the animals below it in the food chain. To reach this level of certainty, the team needed more than dramatic video footage. They needed to check stomach contents from any samples they could get, study chemical markers in the tissue to see where the animal sits in the food chain, find proof that it was affecting prey numbers over time, and confirm that no bigger or equally dominant predator was competing with it in the same territory. Only after checking all of this evidence together did the team feel confident enough to officially use the term apex predator in their published research. One of the most convincing pieces of proof came from a chemical test done on tissue samples, collected using a special sampling dart shot from one of the underwater robots. By measuring certain chemical markers in the animal's muscle tissue, scientists can estimate its position in the food chain, basically how many steps away it is from the tiny organisms at the very bottom. The results place this newly found predator higher in the food chain than any other known species in that trench area, even higher than the large sharks and squid that scientists had always assumed ran that ecosystem. This one piece of evidence, combined with the behavior they had observed and population data, is what finally let the team confidently say they had found a new apex predator. Genetic testing added another layer of proof and complexity to the discovery. When researchers ran the tissue samples through comparison databases, they found that the animal did not clearly match any species already on record. It shared enough genetic traits with a known family of deep-sea predators to show it was related to them, but it also had enough unique genetic differences to count as a completely separate species, and maybe even a separate broader group. This kind of pattern is not unusual in deep-sea biology, where extreme depth, isolation, and unique environmental pressures can cause fast and distinct evolution. The trench where the animal was found is somewhat cut off from nearby deep-sea areas by large, underwater ridges, a natural feature that may have let an early group of these animals evolve on their own over a long time, eventually producing a creature perfectly suited to rule that specific, harsh environment. Physically, the animal challenges some common ideas about what a top ocean predator should look like. It is large, but not massive compared to famous ocean predators like great white sharks or orcas. Its length puts it solidly in the mid to large range for deep-sea animals. What makes it dangerous is not its size, but a set of highly specialized features. Its jaw can open unusually wide compared to its body, which is useful for grabbing prey that might otherwise seem too big to bother chasing. Rows of backward curving teeth stop caught prey from escaping once it's been grabbed. A common feature in deep-sea hunters that rely on surprise attacks instead of long chases. Its eyes, while smaller than those of some famous deep-sea giants, work together with an advanced sensory system along its body that likely picks up tiny changes in water pressure and electrical signals given off by other creatures, letting it hunt with great accuracy even in total darkness. Maybe the most interesting physical feature is the glowing pattern along its sides and the bottom of its jaw. Early observations suggest this glow might do two things: break up its outline against the faint light coming down from above, and possibly attract curious prey close enough for a surprise attack. Researchers think this trait may be an example of two unrelated animal groups developing similar features on their own, even though genetic testing shows this animal comes from a different evolutionary line than other well-known deep-sea lure hunters. Nature often finds similar solutions to similar problems, even when the animals involved started from very different biological points. And this creature seems to be another clear example of that pattern. The behavior data collected during the expedition also showed something scientists find especially interesting: signs of teamwork not usually seen in solitary deep-sea hunters. On at least two occasions, researchers saw what looked like two of these animals showing up in the same hunting area within a short window of time, a pattern that could mean anything from random overlap in territory to a looser form of cooperative hunting. More research is needed to find out whether this is real teamwork, simple tolerance between individuals when prey is plentiful, or just coincidence. If cooperative hunting turns out to be true, this predator would join a very small group of known deep-sea species that show any kind of coordinated behavior, a trait usually seen more in surface predators that hunt in groups to take down bigger prey. News about the confirmed discovery spread quickly beyond the world of science once the findings were shared with the public. People have always been fascinated by ocean predators, a mix of real scientific curiosity and old cultural stories about sea monsters that go back thousands of years, long before modern marine biology existed. Old sailors told stories of creatures hiding beneath their ships long before anyone had the tools to properly study the deep sea. And in many ways, discoveries like this feel like a modern version of those old stories. Except now they come with genetic testing, chemical analysis, and hours of verified video instead of sailor tales. The research team has been careful to point out that while the animal is clearly a powerful hunter in its own environment, there is no reason to think it poses any real danger to humans, since its home is far deeper than where people would ever realistically go. Beyond the public excitement, this discovery carries real scientific weight, especially for researchers who study how deep-sea ecosystems work. Apex predators play a huge role in shaping the structure of everything below them in the food chain, something ecologists call a trophic cascade. When an apex predator disappears from an ecosystem, whether from overfishing, habitat damage, or environmental change, the effects spread outward in often unpredictable ways. Sometimes mid-level predator numbers explode, which can then wipe out smaller prey populations, eventually reshaping the whole balance of that area. Finding a new apex predator means understanding a previously hidden piece of that balance, one that has likely been quietly shaping the trench ecosystem for a long time without anyone knowing it was there. This discovery also raises important questions about how much we still don't know about life in the deep ocean. Even though the deep sea covers most of our planet, it remains one of the least explored places on Earth. Some estimates suggest that most deep sea species haven't even been officially recorded yet. Every major trip into a poorly studied trench system carries a real chance of finding something totally new, whether it's an unknown small creature, a strange trait in a known species, or, like in this case, a completely new predator quietly sitting at the top of its local food chain. Researchers on this project have said this discovery should remind everyone how much is left to learn and how important it is to keep investing in deep sea exploration technology and funding so scientists can document even a small part of what's down there before human activity possibly damages these ecosystems beyond repair. The environment around this discovery matters too, since the trench where the predator was found is close to an area that companies are increasingly interested in for deep sea mining because of mineral-rich rock formations on the seafloor. Scientists focused on conservation have pointed to this discovery as proof that thorough environmental surveys are needed before any mining or industrial activity moves forward in these places. An apex predator that went unnoticed for this long shows just how easily human activity could disturb an ecosystem before anyone even understands what lives there, let alone how any one species fits into the bigger picture. Several members of the research team have already called for stronger protections for this region, saying the newly confirmed predator's home should be treated as a priority area for future conservation planning. Naming a newly confirmed species follows an official scientific process, and researchers on this project say a full formal description is currently being written up for publication in a scientific journal, a process that can take months as the team finishes comparing genetics, measuring the body, and documenting behavior into one complete scientific record. Until that formal paper is published, the animal is being called by an informal working name within the science community, tied to the region where it was found, a common practice used to avoid naming something too early before all the necessary scientific groundwork is finished. Once the official description is published, the species will get a formal two-part scientific name, following standard naming rules used in zoology. After that, the public will likely start using whatever common name ends up catching on. Reactions from the wider marine biology community have been a mix of excitement and careful scientific caution. While many researchers outside the project have shown real enthusiasm about the discovery, several have also stressed the importance of independent confirmation and continued observation before making big claims about the animal's role or how many of them exist. Science, especially in a field as logistically difficult as deep-sea biology, tends to move carefully, favoring slow, step-by-step confirmation over big, dramatic announcements. The original research team agrees with this approach, saying that while they are confident in calling it an apex predator based on the data collected so far, ongoing monitoring will be needed to fully understand things like population trends, breeding behavior, and long-term effects on the ecosystem. Looking ahead, the research team has already planned a follow-up expedition to expand how much area they observe, hoping to find out whether this newly confirmed predator lives only in the original trench system or whether it also lives in nearby deep-sea habitats. This next stage will likely involve setting up long-term automatic monitoring equipment that can record data over a long period without needing constant human supervision, an approach that has become more valuable in deep-sea research as sensor technology has improved. Long-term monitoring could also help answer lingering questions about how the animal reproduces, how fast it grows, and what its young look like, since none of that was directly observed during the shorter first expedition. There is also a lot of scientific interest in understanding the predator's sensing abilities better, especially its apparent reliance on detecting electrical signals and water pressure changes instead of relying mainly on sight. Comparing this animal to other deep-sea predators that use similar sensing methods could give valuable insight into how unrelated species develop similar hunting strategies when faced with similar environmental challenges. Some researchers have even pointed out that studying these sensing systems could offer indirect benefits outside of pure biology, since engineers have often taken inspiration from unusual natural sensing systems when designing new underwater technology, like advanced sonar or self-guided underwater vehicles. For now, this confirmation stands as one of the most important deep-sea discoveries in recent memory, not simply because it introduces a striking new animal to the public, but because of what it represents for science as a whole. It's a reminder that even in a time of satellite mapping, gene sequencing, and advanced robotics, huge parts of our planet remain basically unexplored, holding secrets that can completely change our understanding of entire ecosystems overnight. The research team behind this discovery has been careful throughout to avoid overhyping it, describing their work instead as a careful, methodical scientific achievement built on years of patient observation and strict verification rather than one dramatic encounter. Still, even with that calm, careful tone, It's hard not to feel amazed at the idea that somewhere in the crushing darkness of the deep ocean, a completely new kind of predator has been quietly ruling its own corner of the sea, long before anyone above the surface ever knew it existed. As the official scientific paper moves through the review process, the bigger effects of this discovery will likely keep unfolding. Conservation groups are already using this discovery to push for stronger protections. Around deep-sea habitats that are being considered for future industrial development, schools and universities have shown interest in adding this discovery to their marine biology courses, especially around the challenges of studying places that are so hard to reach. Documentary makers and science communicators have reportedly already reached out to the research team, hoping to share the footage with a wider audience eager to see, for themselves, the animal that has captured so much scientific and public attention in such a short time. In the end, this discovery highlights something marine biologists have understood for a long time. Even if it rarely gets this much attention from the public, the ocean still holds plenty of surprises, and apex predators, the animals sitting right at the top of their world, don't always announce themselves with size or spectacle. Sometimes they reveal themselves slowly through small, strange patterns in data, unexplained gaps in prey numbers, and odd scars on tagged animals that just don't add up. It took a determined team of scientists willing to follow those small inconsistencies all the way down into the crushing darkness of a deep-sea trench to finally confirm what the ecosystem itself had been quietly signaling all along. In doing so, they didn't just find a new species, they uncovered a hidden piece of the ocean's natural order, one apex predator at a time, proving once again that even now, in a world covered by satellites and full of data, the deep sea remains one of the last true frontiers of biological discovery.